Welcome back to Geeks and Grounds, a monthly game club and weekly podcast where we play games and brew good conversation together. I'm your host, Jenny Wyndham.
And I'm Joel Thomas.
And, I haven't been to the aquarium in so long. I was looking forward to jellyfish and maybe seeing some big tuna swim around. And my expectations were just dashed into the dirty, grimy
Oh, interesting.
floor.
You were expecting that like beautiful tranquility of the aquarium, and instead you were met with horrific brutality in the aquarium instead.
Yeah, it was not what I expected. So yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that. How was your experience when you
I would
visited the
subtitle this
aquarium?
whole section Clarissa Explains It All. And
Yes. Oh my God.
I'm very much enjoying this story and this game, and these characters are like just the kind of petty that I love to engage with in my
Yes.
fiction. So yeah,
Oh my
fully
gosh.
living for it.
Yeah, I will say, we'll talk about this later, but the ability to just like jump kick someone was inspired and something I was like, this is why I go to the gym. This is what I'm working up to. It's just the ability to just jump and just like hurl my body into someone's just like face, just kick them.
It's all we want. It's all we've
That's all
ever
we want.
wanted.
Yeah. I'm like, what is that move even called? I'm sure there's like a wrestling power move for just like
I feel like I used to know this back when I was
yeah.
like very in my WCW bag.
Yeah.
But I can't remember anything now. The
Man.
diamond cutter, whatever.
Yeah. You know what? Hereby known as the diamond cutter. I love it.
No, Diamond Dallas Page would be very upset if we did that.
Oh, it's
Like,
copyrighted. Okay.
yeah, DDP owns that one. We gotta honor, one of the OGs.
Damn, you're right. Okay, well, we'll have to brainstorm a new name for this attack. In the meantime, for folks who are new or if you need a little reminder, we are a game club. So every month we play a game together, really chill. Every week we go through a section and we talk through the game with each other and with you all in the Discord and through the weekly newsletter. I feel like we sometimes this year have a bonus brew where not every month, but every couple months, every once in a while, we'll have bonus games that are either much shorter or perhaps we just play them more leisurely over extended periods of times that allow us to either delve into similar themes or just are games that we'd like to highlight. A couple weeks ago, we talked about Blueprints, which was great with Josh. And this month we have the Dark Queen Morthulm.
Morthulm.
I think it's Morthulm. So we'll be talking about that at the end of the month in a little bonus episode. If you just wanted to listen to the monthly brew of Sorry We're Closed, or if you just wanted to have an additional thing to play along with. So I wanted to shout that out there. Before we go into that Sorry We're Closed discussion, though, we always love to stop by the pastry case for a quick little bite, quick snack about what we're engaging with outside of the monthly brew. I did link an article that I thought was interesting, mostly because I thought it was a little bit, honestly, a little funny. The logic that the CEO had.
CEO logic.
CEO logic is something else. And right now life is hard, and I take the little laughs and joys where I can.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll read the title and the quote, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, Joel. So this is from The Gamer, from Vaspin Dastor. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. Dragon Age, the Veilguard's failure might be due to the lack of live service components, according to EA CEO. And the quote from the CEO in particular is from Andrew Wilson. In order to break beyond the core audience, games need to directly connect to the evolving demands of players who increasingly seek shared world features and deeper engagement alongside high-quality narratives in this beloved category, Wilson says. Dragon Age had a high-quality launch and was well-reviewed by critics and those who played. However, it did not resonate with a broad enough audience in this highly competitive market. So he's saying it underperformed because it wasn't a live service game. Thoughts?
So we've talked about this a lot in our like personal professional lives, like how often executive leadership has like a belief in their mindset based on zero data or completely inverted data. And it feels like what I am reading here is exactly that moment for this Wilson character. It's just like, I have this story in my head about what matters, and that is live service games. And I am going to take things that are potentially unrelated to live service games and make it about that to reinforce that point. um Jenny shared this article, and there's an additional line that like really stood out to me. He doubled down on this by pointing out that a large chunk of the company's earnings have come from live service games. And it's just like, that has nothing to do with the possibility that Dragon Age didn't do well because it wasn't live service. That just says that you've already reoriented your portfolio to be about live service. It's like, oh, we decided that 80% of our games are going to be live service. And so when I look at this one non-live service game and say, oh, it didn't perform very well, well, 80% of our revenue comes from live service. So that must be the reason that it wasn't like effective.
Mm-hmm.
It really bothers me. I get really tired of, especially with this like live service stuff, like people who are really focused on like the revenue experience over the gaming experience. I
Mm-hmm.
have my own theory about Dragon Age specifically, but I like, what are your thoughts on all this?
I'm right there with you. I think what's interesting to me is when I am not a Dragon Age player, but when I look at Dragon Age, I'm very interested to see if there is any data that would say this is a demographic, a target audience that would like live service, and this is a genre that
Mm-hmm.
usually would find success in live service. Because I honestly, I see Dragon Age and I think of other very solid single player or like multiplayer local co-op online co-op experiences, which is like a very different kind of energy where
Elden
you're
Ring.
Elden Ring, exactly, you're doing these very like epic quests with friends, but you're not necessarily approaching it in that vast or like live service
Yeah.
format. um and so this
Baldur's
is
Gate, for crying
Baldur's
out
Gate.
loud.
Exactly. I'm like, I see this and I'm like, this feels like a Baldur's Gate situation to me where I don't think live service would have done Baldur's Gate any favors necessarily. And I think what is interesting to me is he assumes that live service will be a net positive,
Mm-hmm.
where honestly it what if you adding live service would have made it worse? You
Yeah.
know, like the assumption that live service is a good thing in all cases here is just odd to me.
I think, like, in my opinion about Dragon Age specifically, is that it is more noise in a Western medieval fantasy setting. And we've
Mm-hmm.
had so much of that in the last few years. And, like,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that genre in general. But even for me, it's just like, what is this Dragon Age? Is it like this other medieval fantasy game? Is it like this
Mm,
other medieval fantasy game? And it's just, I get so tired. Like, this is where I
yeah.
think like Final Fantasy has done itself a lot of favors, where it's the games that are the most iconic, the most well known, are still fantasy, but they've blended it into like
Mm,
semi modern, usually some level of industrialization has happened
mm-hmm.
environment, and they own that. Like, that is like their genre, to the point where it's like, if someone else tried it, I'd be like, oh, this is a Final Fantasy ripoff. But the problem is, all these other game publishers and game creators, like, they're setting these stores in the exact same place as all the others are. And I feel like it's really hard for me to even keep the games straight at this point.
Yeah, I think it goes towards yeah, the whole idea of essentially just being a saturated and like I know when I talk to teams about marketing their games and finding the hook, like what is the
Hmm.
differentiator for your game? And like I think for me as a very light Baldur's Gate user, for me, I was like Baldur's Gate seemed to differentiate itself because it had such incredible sort of choice and agency it seemed to allow the player, not only in
Hmm.
the gameplay, but like the ability to build these relationships across
Yeah.
these story arcs. And it's like Dragon Age, from my interpretation of what I've seen from advertisements, it doesn't seem to offer a unique enough hook that I feel like I could get, that I'm
Yeah.
not getting from any other similar game. Um, yeah, but I also, you're more of the expert in this genre because I typically don't go for medieval fantasies. So I feel like I really like hearing your opinion on all of this.
It's hard, and like this is where
Yeah.
I come back to the Game Awards presentation that the studio chief from Larian did, where he talked about
Mm-hmm.
like the next game of the year is going to be someone that is devoted to like the artistry and the storytelling and the quality, and it's just like, yeah, because like the reason, in my opinion, is that the reason games like Black Myth Wukong and Sekiro stood out is because they took the time period of medieval fantasy, but they gave them
Mm.
Eastern storytelling mechanisms, Eastern settings. And so it felt very fresh and very different. His like problematic nature of with Wukong to the side, like the setting of the game let it really cut through the noise in a way that
Mm-hmm.
other games in these genres are having a hard time doing. Like, what was was it Final Fantasy 16 that was set in like high fantasy, like it
I
was
think it
all
was more like
dudes and
medieval.
yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, for me, it was too Games of Thronesy.
Yeah, that is it exactly. And it's just like I've done Lord of the Rings. I'm very familiar with like the Western high
Mm-hmm.
fantasy medieval setting. And it's not that I will never appreciate that, but it makes it hard for for any game, story, book series, whatever. It makes it hard for me
Mm-hmm.
to like really get up my interest for it.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you're playing larger games of this scale, which are usually AAA games, it's like you're spending 70, 80 plus dollars for
Mm-hmm.
that experience. And so I think to a certain extent, because I think I hear folks saying, like, oh, there's going to be less sales of games, people are going to buy less titles. I think it kind of depends on the type of game you're talking to. But when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to AAA experiences or games of this nature, I mean, I'm already only buying maybe two large games a year,
Yeah.
spending the rest of my money on indies. Um, and yeah, it makes it even harder when I feel like I think I've got a version of this at home. I'm gonna wait until something either so nostalgic, like for me, Final Fantasy VII Remake was a great example. I'm like, that's that's so nostalgic. I will buy that for sure. Or it's something totally different. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Like if you put Dragon's Age and Dragon's Dogma side by side on a shelf, I could not tell you the difference between these two games.
Oh my god. Honestly, me too. And there are people out there who are probably crying right now, like in their morning
Deepest
commutes or something.
apologies. Deepest
And yeah, I'm so
apologies.
sorry. But it's true. I am the same. And maybe someday we'll know the difference, but today is not that day.
Get in the comments. Tell us the difference.
Yeah, please, if you know the difference, let us know. Um so with that, I guess, are there any other things you've been paying attention to this week? What have you been watching, playing, reading, all that good
Mm.
stuff?
Not a lot of new game stuff. Continuing with my metaphor journey. I will
Yes.
say, from a watching perspective, the
Mhm.
second season of Dungeons and Drag Queens on Dropout released, and it is one of my favorite. They call them side quests that they
Mhm.
do on the Dropout D&D channel, and it's just really fun. And the queens are hilarious, and they're all in like full, like the full look.
Yeah.
Brennan's in the full look. I am really enjoying it. So if you're all into D&D or into drag queen experiences, drag shows, I could not recommend it more highly enough. It's like a really great entry point into the world of D&D because
Yeah.
none of them had played D&D prior to this show.
You know, it's funny because I have seen a couple clips pop up on like social media with
Mm,
like Dungeons and Drag Queens, and these clips are the funniest D&D clips I've ever seen, like just hands down. And I was actually thinking, because I've tried multiple times watching different sort of live play
hmm
D&D casts, and while I adore the people on them, a lot of the time to me, I'm just like, oh, but I would rather like I would rather be playing at this
Yeah,
point.
for sure.
What's really interesting, I think, seeing it through this like almost this feels like a drag performance, like an iteration, a version of a drag performance that just doesn't have the music and the lip syncing. It feels much more fun to watch for me, and it doesn't give me the same feeling that I get where I'm like, I can have D&D at home, because I'm like, I couldn't do this. I couldn't come up with the amazing lines and like the performance of this show. And so I think I'm going to be trying to watch this because it's so funny what I've seen on social media.
Yeah, very, very much enjoy it. Would recommend. Um, Bob the drag queen is this incredible like leader of the group. Like
Yeah.
they're obviously the most in touch with this like nerddom D&D experience. And so it's just really also engaging to watch Brennan, who's this like hyper experienced D&D player and DM,
Mm-hmm.
with Bob the drag queen and their experience doing like being in nerd culture and having like a basic grasp of the mechanics and how they
Mm-hmm.
work together to bring everybody else at the table along
That's
into what,
cool.
you know, a lot of times feels like a lot of rules. And they're like, no, we're here to tell a fun story. We're going
Mm-hmm.
to be funny. And I don't know, you feel it. It's good.
That's cool. Yeah, I think that's great.
And the last thing, what I've been reading, I texted you about this midweek. The
Yeah.
second book in the second Mistborn trilogy, called Shadow of Self,
Mm-hmm.
the Wayne and Wax series, I guess is maybe what it's called.
Yeah.
I have really been enjoying it. Uh, I texted you because I was like, I didn't know Brandon Sanderson had class consciousness like this, but this whole book is it is a textbook story around like how oppressive, often corrupt capitalistic forces put a lot of downward pressure on society and like
Mm-hmm.
what happens when that society comes to a breaking point because of the systems around,
Wow.
and force the main character to kind of grapple with like, if you were, because he's kind of a cop, if you were in your role back during the first Mistborn series, you would have been the one working for the Lord Ruler, like this big bad evil guy, to
Mm.
reinforce the status quo. And it's like,
Okay.
oh, damn. It's like the criticism that we hear about like the Avengers and how like ultimately they're
Yeah.
kind of a fascistic police force for the
Mm-hmm.
world. That is like a central question and theme of the second book. And I was not expecting it and very much appreciating like the nuance of the storytelling.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear because I bounced off the first book because I was like, dang, this is a Western like cop drama.
Mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm.
that's always been my like take from my first the portions that I read of the first book, and I was like, I don't know, I don't think I can do Western Brandon Sanderson.
Yep, fair.
It doesn't feel very good to read. But yeah, you texted me that and I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna
Deepest
be
apologies,
restarting.
Jenny. I wanted to be in your corner on this one, and
No,
unfortunately,
honestly, it's a good surprise. I'm like, because I am like, I really love all of the books within the like Cosmere.
Mm,
And so it's been a big point of contention for me to have not read these books that are out and have been out. And it's like knowledge from the canon that I'm missing that I
mm,
just cannot bring myself to go through again. But I think knowing in advance that it does resolve in this in the sense and it does get more interesting, um for me that's enough where I'm like, okay, I'll push through because I know it's not going to stay just sort of cowboys the whole time.
yeah, totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. What have you been getting
Hmm.
into over the last week?
So I mean, we're both former teachers. We both have talked about Abbott
Mm,
Elementary. I had only watched the first season, but there's like two more out at least, I think.
I think I'm like
And
season 4 or
so
5 now. It's been out. Yeah,
yeah.
it's been rocking.
So I started back at season one to just remind myself of the characters and the, like sort of the initial plot lines, and I'm now in season two of Abbott Elementary. It is so good.
It's so good.
Honestly, I think just watching it and appreciating that there's so much to appreciate about the show, but I think as a former classroom teacher, I appreciate that they do a good balance of showing these realities of being a teacher and of teachers who care, and are doing their jobs as best as they can while also balancing like the personal lives and humor in that sitcom show way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think about, I don't know, I think the only other show with teachers I remember is Glee, and it's just the worst. So it's just nice because I'm like, oh, these teachers are actually like, I would have adored having these teachers as a student. I would have adored working with these teachers as a fellow teacher. So I really appreciate the way they show the realities of being an educator, because while some of it is a bit exaggerated, it is highly
It's a
relatable to
lot of relatable
watch.
moments for
Yeah.
sure. I think there are like 2 points of unreality about it that like I can't turn off when I watch it because I love the show. The first is the teachers are in the break room so much, and I'm
Oh my
like,
gosh, yeah.
that is in no school does this happen.
I was going to say the janitor being in the break room that much, totally. I
Okay.
remember
Okay.
teaching, and I was like, there was a janitor I used to work with, and I'm pretty sure anytime I went in to like run to the bathroom or grab a quick coffee, he was in the break room all the time, just chilling. But yeah, no, like them having, yeah, it seems like full periods just chilling in the
Just
break room.
chilling with like across grade levels. Like your best
Yeah.
friends happen to all be on prep the same time as you. No
Yeah.
way. And then the second is, you know, you're following like one central romance, which makes sense for this format, but like teachers get down, like teachers party, and there's way more romance in the typical American school between teachers than
Oh
what
yeah.
is happening on the screen in Abbott.
I
That's
was
my
gonna
only other
say,
criticism.
yeah, I was gonna say there was always drama, and what was funny is because the kids always like picked up on it at some point,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, that was very, very fun.
But what else you been doing?
uh, yeah, but like, okay, so I started Heavenly Tyrant. I'm still basically at the same point. Shout out to Matthew, who is like, what is it? Not tweeted, blue skied me, posted, skeeted. I don't know,
Zeeted?
zeeted.
I have no idea.
But I am going to be working through Heavenly Tyrant. I have a lot of plane rides coming up, so lots of reading. We'll be probably Heavenly
Yes.
Tyrant and what was it, Shadows of Self. So we'll be getting onto that. But yeah, Heavenly Tyrant still is like on my nightstand. I look at it before I go to bed, and then I just go to sleep.
I want
And
so badly for the author to partner with like Bandai or something to make the Gundam model kits
oh my
of
gosh,
the mechs in this
I'm
anime.
honestly shocked it hasn't happened
Me too.
yet.
I feel like annually I'm like adding that as a comment, like, be really cool if there were some model kits of these guys.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Honestly, I'm like, if you want someone to do, I'm sure they have an amazing marketing team, obviously, but I'm like, if you need another person help with product, I'm here. I would learn for you. But then when I have little moments, I've been trying to play bits and pieces of Hello Kitty Island Adventure, which is
Amazing.
basically Animal Crossing, but with Hello Kitty and other Sanrio characters. Um, I'm still very much in the tutorial phase, so it's kind of it is a little slow, but it is so cute, and the map is huge. Like I think what's kind of incredible is the premise is you've all essentially Fortnited onto a island amusement park area. It's wild. You jump out of a plane, and there is a snakes on the plane reference in the first 10 minutes of the game. It's so funny.
Incredible.
Um, yeah, kudos to whoever got that in the game because it made me laugh out loud. And you sort of Fortnite jump your way out of this, I think, crashing plane into the island amusement park area. And there's different regions. And so, what I always thought was Animal Crossing's weakest point is you are, and maybe strongest depending on how you look at the design, is you're on this island and that's all you have. Um, and it's one biome. The only
Mm-hmm.
time it changes is when the seasons in your real world change. In this game, you have multiple biomes. You have like a swampy area, you have sort of a deserty area, a haunted foresty area, and they all sort of allow each of the Sanrio characters to have a place called home that fits their brand.
Oh,
So it's really cute, and I'm having a good time with it. I could see it being a little bit too, just like, I don't know. I could see it being a little too similar and too simplistic, like with Animal Crossing, where I'm not as engaged with it after a longer period of time. But we'll see, because I'm still at the very beginning, so I'm like having to run around, do a lot of fetch quest crafting and things like that.
gotcha.
I'm really looking forward to just when I can freely decorate and just get to making the place look cute. I think that's where I'll know if it's really worth sticking with, or if I bounce off of it back to Fields of Mystria.
Okay, here's a question. Like with these types of games,
Mm-hmm.
Animal Crossing, Mystery, like etc. How many hours of gameplay do you think you
Mm.
should be locked out of those things before it's like, okay, at this point I should be able to like fully customize my character, fully customize my house, fully customize like my land? Like,
Oh, that's different. Oh, that's different per game, I feel like, because I think with games that are much more intentionally like we are a farming sim, like this is about resources and depending on the season, you're going to get different things and they sort of
mm,
lock progression through a lot of the seasons and also the resources and like the level of tools you have. I'm okay with it taking a little longer as long as you've got other things to keep you occupied. I think with the Hello Kitty game right now, I feel like it's being a little bit slow because most of my time is still right now spent on fetch quests for the other characters. And I'm not
oh,
feeling like I'm having the opportunity to decorate. Whereas, like in Animal Crossing, there wasn't really any of that like fetch questy nature. It was just kind of like you just do what you got to do, you just decorate, and like the limiting factor is your bells. So I think there's like a slight different design happening in Hello Kitty, but I don't
gotcha.
know. I don't mind having to wait for that content as long as I feel like there's a reason behind it and there's stuff for me to do in the meantime. But again, Hello Kitty, I'm like, if I can't decorate maybe in the next hour and I'm just still doing fetch quests,
Mm,
I might not stick with it. But
I
everyone
see.
else seems to have a good time. So I think maybe if I just wait a little longer, it'll go fine.
Yeah, totally reasonable, I think.
Yeah.
I like that you brought the game design into it. I think it's easy for me to be like, once I get to a certain point in a game, I kind of desire to just have God mode. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
once I have like feel like I've mastered the baseline mechanics, it's like, well,
Yeah.
don't make me crunch mechanics anymore. Let me just like feel good while I play.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what that is like for Animal Crossing. It's like, how long did you have to play before you could actually like visit other islands? It was like a couple of days or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, but I remember getting to the point where I was like, okay, I am really ready to be able to like get off my island and go see my friends' places
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And I remember feeling like, it's just a little too long to get there. So,
Yeah. No, that's understandable. I think Animal Crossing's one of the biggest points of feedback I've seen is people who like I don't want to be locked to like the real 24-hour day. You know, I want to be able to play and just like move forward and go.
mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really good point of feedback. And it's yeah, but at the same time I do like I like that delayed gratification and that
Ah,
anticipation. I think
mm-hmm.
it's really fun. I love when games do that. So yeah, it's just about finding the game that most resonates with you.
Ain't it always?
It is. Speaking of finding games, as we wind down the pastry case, a couple of notable releases. If you're looking for something new to play or something to check out and wish list, we've got two, one on February 12th and one on February 13th. The first is called Urban Myth Dissolution Center. This is a like psychological horror visual novel kind of mystery game where you play someone who has been cursed and you join this paranormal sort of detective agency that has to solve cases around the neighborhood.
Hmm.
I played the demo. I was a bit torn. I couldn't tell from the demo if it was going to be something I'd really enjoy or if it would just maybe fall more, I would say, flat or like lackluster in terms of the writing. But I am looking and the demo is still available. So if you're interested in the premise and you want to give it a try, I'd say try out the demo. And then we also have Dawn Folk, which is a charming, very like minimalist city builder that's based on tile grids, which I
Hmm.
think is always really fun. And the goal is to build and gather resources while also pushing back the darkness. And so, what's kind of cool is this is like I don't know. For folks who've played like Dwarf Romantique or any other city builder game, it's got that same mechanic, but it's got a sort of darker palette, dark mode essentially. Like, so
Excellent.
it's like easy on the eyes to look at, and it's quite pretty. So if you enjoy those kind of city builders, Dwarf Romantique again, I would recommend checking this out. I played the demo. It's still available. I'm checking right now. It's still here. So if you want to give it a try, you can also give it a try. And I really enjoyed this one. So I'll probably be picking this up
Oh,
when it
nice.
releases. Yeah.
Very
All
fun.
right. So that is it for the pastry case. As always, be sure to visit geeksandgrounds.com to subscribe to the newsletter to get this in your inbox. And away we go to this month's brew. Sorry, we're closed. We have finished day one. Our discussion is in the last episode. So today we're going to be starting at day two in London, London town.
It is foggy old London town,
Yeah.
and I was trying to describe this to some of my coworkers, and I was like, it's like this punk version of London in like think early 90s, but also it's different from that. And it's just like it's such a hard like aesthetic to explain to someone. I don't know, but like I really am jiving with it. I love like the visual is very
Mm-hmm.
impactful for me. So I'm really enjoying that side of it.
Yes. I wanted because we kind of ran through the end a little bit quickly, and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to reinforce. We got the opportunity to make a decision at the end of day one, if I remember correctly, with Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
And just to remind everyone, what did you pick when Lucy asked you? You know,
Yeah, like
will
basically
you
like do you
team
want
up
to
with
try
them?
and like free yourself so that you can get back with your ex? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like very much like a motivation type thing.
Yeah.
And I said yes. I went full on like, you know what? Yeah, me and Lucy, we're going to the end. Like we're end game. Me and this two-bodied, two-headed demon, we're gonna go on this self-improvement journey so that I can get back my ex. And that is the decision that I have made.
Hell
And
yeah.
it has honestly informed almost every one of my decisions since then. So I'm really interested. So you turned
Ooh.
her down, is that right?
I did for the exact same reason, in the sense where Lucy's the thing that flagged me because Lucy was like, "We're gonna take down the Duchess, and then you can be with your ex." And the take down the Duchess part, I was like, "Cool." And then the ex part, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I don't think it's gonna be good for Michelle to like live in the past and want to get back with her ex. I think she needs to move forward, and so I said no, thank you to Lucy.
I get it. And I can tell just based on some of your earlier comments about Clarissa that you maybe have experienced some things that I did not because of some of like the way that I have navigated the day two of this game. So I'm
Oh,
pretty interested to dive into
interesting.
this.
Okay.
The other thing we didn't really talk much about at the end of our last session, where we kind of like rushed through, was
Mhm.
the romantic relationship element of angels and demons,
Mhm.
which seems to be certainly for the Lucy version of the story that I'm following, really, really important.
Yeah.
So, uh, we talked about last time there was like this great divide at some point in history, which had something to do with angels and demons splitting apart and like
Mhm.
not being allowed to interface. But as we moved through day one, we started meeting angel demon couples, and
Yeah.
you start learning that like there's some conflict there, and if you get too committed, something might happen, or there's some transformation. So this seems like to be a very important element of this game, and one that I'm really interested to see, like,
Mm.
is there a deeper theme that's being communicated with that, or is it just like a specific game like story element? So,
Yeah. I think and we're going to talk about it a lot today, but this idea of first of all, I think it's kind of funny because everyone's like human and demon or angel and demon relationships. No, 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 not supposed to happen. This is much more frequent
it's like
than
almost
than
all of them that we've met.
it's like this is much more frequent than y'all are making this sound.
uh,
So that's kind of funny. But I think also throughout today and today's discussion, we're going to talk about this nature of like change,
mm,
and sort of this transformative power that love can have, both towards positive change but also towards like negative change, that I think is really cool that the game touches on, because I think you usually see it one way or the other in most media, and
yeah.
not sort of this the spectrum in its entirety being kind of covered in one go.
That's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that.
Mhm.
That's a really great observation, Jenny.
Yeah. And these relationships are messy. Oh my gosh. So let's dive in. So we start day 2. We speak to Lucy. Well, I got another conversation with Lucy at the start of day 2.
I was
That
going to
was
ask you about this. So I did too, but mine was like, you've already committed. So, like, let's start working out the details. What was your conversation like?
my conversation was a one last chance. You're either in or we're not gonna mess with you anymore. And I said, sorry, I'm locked in. I'm still not gonna work with you. And Lucy was basically like, well, I'm not gonna tell you anything anymore. Um, but I'll still spy on you. Bye.
Oh,
So
so there's still like your save point person?
yeah, so it's still canonically like they can be my save.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, this is our first point of divergence then.
Yeah.
So when we continue our conversation, and basically, not only are they starting off the conversation with the assumption that you've already committed, they are laying it on very thick that they are actively pushing you to want to reconnect with Emily, your ex, who's in this like soap opera or whatever. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's not even enough that I've already committed. It's like, hey, let me remind you constantly that you're like maybe not good enough without this person, and we need to change fundamental parts of who you are so that you can get them back. So it's like this very
Wow.
toxic motivation for the character.
Oh man, this kind of makes me ooh, okay. All right. When I'm interacting, okay, cuz we get a choice with Daryl, and I think it's a really interesting I don't know if it's a direct foil, but there is this connection between how Lucy is treating you and I think the role we're playing with Daryl depending on the answers we give. Oh my gosh. Okay.
100%. So, given
Wow.
that, here are the 3 things that if you choose to partner with Lucy, that you are actively trying to do. So, like, throughout this day 2, you get to kind of you have the opportunity to kind of partner with several characters and like
Mhm.
help them along with their quests. And because I chose Lucy as my route, it doesn't lock you out of the others, but I think to play true to the story, I'm kind of saying no to a lot of things that maybe are more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 3 things are, I have to retrieve a shattered demon heart, aka a demon that has broken up with an angel. I have to
No.
retrieve an angel's halo, which they framed as you have to help set this angel free. And I have to retrieve the Duchess's name. And apparently, Lucy has the first half of the Duchess's name, and Daryl has the second half, or at least Lucy believes that Daryl has the second half. And
Whoa.
because of that, we have to keep Daryl happy so that we can eventually get that name from him. So we are supposed to be actively helping him and Oakley stay
Yeah.
together and keeping them going, because happy Daryl means more likely we will be able to get that
Right.
name eventually.
Oh, interesting. But also, I'm seeing that potentially you will have to do some other, like, we have other characters that you're going to be messing with. Oh, like, because Robin and was it Benedict?
Yeah,
That's who
that's a
I'm
potential
assuming.
relationship.
Oh my gosh, that
There's
you're going to have
the
to
what's
break
the
up.
the other demon angel relationship? It's like Camus and
Yeah.
someone else that are trying to get together. So like there are a couple of these relationships, and I will say this: the wording is just vague enough that it could be interpreted as help the angel and demon get together, which would kind of force this like
Mm,
fundamental change to who they are, and maybe then you can
mm-hmm.
get it. So like it might end up that way, but given the toxic nature of this storyline, it
Yeah.
feels like I'm playing the villain role for
Oh
the
my
rest of this
gosh.
game.
That's really interesting. Oh my goodness. Um, what's fascinating is I think I made a decision that I did not expect I was going to make. I did like a gut. Okay, actually I'm going to go with this moment with Daryl in particular. And that's because initially I was 100% certain that I was like not going to help Daryl and Oakley.
Mm.
But as you explore you can explore the city block. And in one of the conversations I had with Daryl, he his earnestness is my undoing, and he's such a himbo. And I think my fault is I want him so much to be the right person for Oakley. And so in that, I was like, I'm going to see if I can try and help Daryl be better for Oakley. In the sense, because he says he wants to change and he's a better person when he's with Oakley and he wants to do that. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe, and my character keeps repeating this now. So I'm interested if your character, your Michelle, is doing this, but my Michelle is constantly throwing in lines in other situations where she's reinforcing, like, I think we can be better people, like we can give people second chances, and
Yeah.
that's like what she's saying. So I don't know if that's just a default or if that's
I'm
just
getting some of that as well. And
okay.
like,
Okay.
there's definitely a rationalization happening when I talk
Mm-hmm.
about Daryl throughout this whole chapter, where it's like, oh, I'm doing this because I want Oakley to be happy. I'm doing this because I think like Daryl deserves second chance. It's like, I'm not convinced that that is at all the reason that I'm doing the things that I'm doing, given that
Yeah,
I'm playing this very toxic storyline.
that's so funny because it's like I think the way I'm playing her, I'm like genuinely, really actually hoping that
Mm,
Daryl can get his stuff together in a way that, like, almost in my head, in the canon that I'm making for Michelle right now, I'm like, as Michelle, I couldn't maybe get whatever I had together.
mhm.
And this is me, Michelle, projecting onto Oakley and Daryl what I couldn't do in my own relationship, which isn't healthy. Um, let's be clear, that's not
Yeah.
a great thing to do. But I really wanted to see if we can like make something positive happen, also because I really like Oakley, just personally, and I'm like, I want you to be better for Oakley, and you
Hmm.
seem to want to be better,
Hmm.
and you got him a rat hamster. Which I just found it too funny, and I was like, I had to see this one through, so I
Yeah.
decided to not help Clarissa, or yeah.
Yes,
I,
Clarissa's asking you to kind of sabotage
yeah.
Daryl, and I also declined that. Clarissa, to me, strikes me as a very self-involved character, and I am not here
Mhm.
for the drama they're bringing.
Yeah, I think the worry that I have with Clarissa is that some of what she was saying as the benefit of me working with her and helping her, it alluded to this desire for like power and money and
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
it alluded to things that I actually did not want. And it brought me back to the Dream Eater at the very beginning of the game, where the Dream Eater was like, do you
Oh,
want love? I think status. There were those things. And I said, I don't know. And I feel like for me, Clarissa represents that like
the power
sense, that
side.
this power that I don't think I want for Michelle
That's
as I'm
genius,
playing.
Jenny. I didn't connect that dot at
I
all. Wow.
don't know. It might be a stretch, but it felt like it when we were talking with her. She's like, "You could rule this block with me," and I was like, I don't think I want that."
I'm gonna rule the block of this
Yeah.
90s British uh, neighborhood. No thanks. I
uh,
will say, like, you talked about kind of, you're like this, you have this secret love of Daryl. I mean, love is too strong, but like this secret like
yeah,
hope that like
I
he can be
know.
better. I want to fix him. He is like that perfect, like I think like the anime characters, the like
Mm-hmm.
Sasuke from
Yeah.
Naruto, the Bakugo from My Hero Academia. The character is like a bully that you
Yeah.
just, you know that they're going to turn it around and like they're gonna be friends with the MC again.
I'm such a sucker for that trope. The I can fix him trope, honestly, it's like my kryptonite. Um and this game is manipulating it to the fullest extent
For
for me.
sure. Absolutely. And like, it's interesting because it's like, to be honest, when they talk about Daryl and his violent tendency, in my heart of hearts, I am convinced that he's an abusive partner. And
Yeah.
like, it's like impossible for me to see how he's treating the world around him and not to think
Mm,
that he like carries that home to
yeah.
Oakley.
Yeah.
But because they have not explicitly said that, I'm kind of giving myself the moral gray area to be like, it's okay.
Yeah, like
It's
for
okay.
now I'm just going to go with it. And to be fair, they allude he Daryl in particular has to deliver meat, and he has this like meat business on the side. which is total Sweeney Todd feeling,
It's
honest.
very Sweeney Todd-esque.
It's like, it's just a little priest. I don't know. Like this, he's got a human meat grinding side business that's like not cool. And so yeah, he is the bad decision I'm making for this game, and I'm willing to fess up to it, but I really want to see how this arc goes.
I feel like I'm doing oops all bad decisions
Yeah.
in this playthrough.
It's a good playthrough strategy.
Oh boy.
So as you explore, you can also, I think, go to culture shock. You learn a little bit more about the Great Divide and the demon hearts. I think what was really interesting from Marv is that you learn that demon hearts, demons have hearts. They're not heartless, but their hearts are more volatile and more reactive. And I thought that was a really, I don't know, I think in light of the Great Divide and seeing all of this as sort of metaphor for how we relate to one another, how
Mm-hmm.
relationships work, it just reminded me of, those great shifts in a relationship that like fundamentally change how you either are in that relationship or how
Yeah.
you interact with like the rest of the world as a result of what happened in your relationship. And so it's like the angels and these demons in particular, they had something happen to them that fundamentally just changed how they felt about themselves and the world around them, and as a result are more reactive, which is like, I mean, we see that in people, when
Yeah.
breakups happen, for example,
Yeah.
so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's funny because like we've been literally shooting demon hearts
Yeah.
as the primary center of action for this game. Like you shoot it and it moves, you shoot it and it moves, and then like your ultimate move is called like the Heartbreaker or something like that. So there's like very much this like literal
Mm-hmm.
element of this story that's happening alongside of the metaphorical, and it is like it's very interesting the way they're doing that. Like I don't
Yeah.
think that I can think of other media that has taken like very literal phrases and made them also be metaphor at the same time and in quite the same way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm really digging it.
Yeah, I think it's really fun, and it's nice to, I don't know, it makes it easy for me at least to weave very like kind of coast like a little dolphin, sort of on the waves of being like, I'm going to think about my relationships and how this works and like sort of the ways I see this applying and how I've
Mm-hmm.
related to people. But also I can just dive back in and just be in the story, and it's like a very fun wave to ride, like quite literally, between the
Yes.
literal and the metaphorical in this game.
Fully agree.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting, right? So like you go to this record shop. There seems to be like some other like side things happening, right? Like you learn
Yeah.
about this character that was like a lead singer for a band that seems to have gone missing.
Hmm.
I don't know that I wrote her name.
Matilda.
Matilda.
Yeah.
And you meet like a lead singer of a different band that's there. It's like, what's happening? That like these lead singers, these bands are just hanging out in this local record shop.
Yeah,
I don't
he's just
know.
he's there because his, Matilda, who's an idol, has gone missing, and he's like, I gotta pay my respects. I think he was saying he was doing a show, and I'm like, the only place he could do that is Daryl's bar. And I'm like, so I was
Oh,
like, at least that's what was my assumption, was
yeah,
I'm like,
that's
you'd only be
smart.
here to do a show, and if you're doing a show in
Hmm.
Daryl's bar, you should be careful if you're a human. um,
Hmm.
but yeah, you see also another person has gone missing, Violet, who had the little bakery cart, made the great pan au chocolat, is gone. She has a fan and a health inspector, both looking for her, or them, sorry. And then I think from there, you're kind of done exploring. You can head up to the church to see. Well, I ran into Chamul, who is the centaur, right? Yeah, centaur,
Hmm.
uh, who is just angsting over their love, basically, and being separated and like not being able to fully be with their love. They ask you, and yet another relationship question you're getting so many these days,
Hmm.
whether they should end the relationship because they are, in
Angel
a
demon.
angel demon relationship that's not going well for either of them in terms of their both of their people, sort of wanting to them to be together, or does he accept the change of love, which potentially could like actually destroy him, turn him into a human, maybe do something worse. We don't quite know. What did you pick?
I pushed them to love and promised that I would help deliver a letter to their boyfriend. I don't know quite what the
Yes.
like relationship is there.
Yeah.
Um I'm just gonna spoiler alert to say like within this chapter,
Yeah.
I never found them to deliver that letter. And so
Okay. This is jumping ahead, but I made the similar mistake. I was like, who do I deliver this to? There is the postman, the demon postman rat thing. I think you're supposed to give the letter to that demon. And
no.
I totally forgot because I was just like, oh, I guess I'll just do it later. I didn't know. So I'm really sad because I think, because I chose the same thing and I think we
Uh-huh.
may have borked it up.
At the very end of this chapter, did you get like a sequence with the Dream Eater about this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like this was like the only thing that like really happened in that sequence was it's like, oh no, I didn't deliver the letter, and the Dream Eater like takes the letter.
Yeah.
My hope was maybe the Dream Eater is the boyfriend and I just messed it. Like I was supposed to do this, but no, you're right. You're 100% right. You keep running into this damn postman and I
Yeah.
totally
And
missed that.
and the postman kept saying, like, make sure you get your letters delivered. And I just did not put one and one together.
Damn it.
So
Well,
get ready for the
maybe
next playthrough, I guess.
on the plus side, I'm supposed to be breaking up a demon and an angel, so maybe this will help me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. That might actually fit all of the plans. I know for me, I'm like, I already have a note because I delivered the pickle. I wasted the pickle jar. And so I'm like, I need to replay so I can get all of the ingredients to the chef. But now I'm like, well, I really have to replay because I need to deliver the letter because I really want
Mm-hmm.
to see what happens.
Yeah. So we have this conversation, which is
Mm-hmm.
right outside of the church. You go into the church, and there's an angel there, beloved. And this, think like 1950s US, like pro segregationist. That is this beloved character. Like, the commingling of demons and angels shall not pass, and I'm going to fight against it, but I can't talk to my boss, even though they're in one of those relationships, because I don't have that authority. So, but everyone at my level and below, I'm a cause a problem for them. Like, I couldn't help but read that with like, I don't
Yeah.
know, that type of energy.
I know. I was like, my goodness, like you are just too much of a stickler for these rules. Like, let them live, let them love. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, which is funny because this name's Beloved. So it's like, wow. All
Toni
right.
Morrison would be so disappointed.
Oh,
Uh,
truly.
but we do make our way to
Um,
the front of the church, and our
mhm.
crew is there, right? We have Benedict and the name
Robin.
Robin. Thank you.
Yep.
And you get a little bit of interesting lore in this moment. Like one of the things that was
Hmm.
most interesting to me, because there's like a lot, but the thing
Yeah.
that was most interesting to me was that Benedict has to stay in this church because they're guarding this gate, this door to
Hmm.
somewhere. And it sounds like maybe like the underworld, like they say that if they left their post, uh like real problematic monsters would be able to come out. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's an underworld gate. Is that your read
I
of the situation?
figured, yeah, some sort of, if not underworld, like otherworldly portal,
Mm-hmm.
to the wherever the demons live. I thought it was kind of a little comical. There were a lot of really funny moments in this chapter or the day, but they're like, the lower demons that sort of sift through, they're just
Mm-hmm.
as problematic as humans, so we don't really care. Maybe the Duchess is like a little bit more of an issue, but we don't want anyone more powerful than the Duchess. And I just thought it was kind of funny that some demons are determined to be like as sort of annoying as humans, like they're on the same level.
Yes,
Like that to me
yes.
was pretty comical. I enjoyed that.
Fully agree with that. Were there other like parts of lore? Like I feel like we get a little bit more on kind of the Great Divide around this time. Like,
Hmm.
was there anything else that kind of really stood out to you in this conversation?
Mm, I think it was interesting when talking to Benedict, more personal lore, where you ask if Benedict is fine, and he kind of just says like, "Well, I have to be fine,"
That's right.
and that made me feel for Benedict as a character. It made me wonder if we're going to get any more information about Benedict and like how's Benedict really doing, and sort of how does he really feel about what's going on? Because ultimately, later on, you get asked to help Robin essentially find a relic to free Benedict from his post, and
What did you say to
I'm
that?
I said I would help
I
because
turned it down.
I was like, we could use the relic,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't have to. But if we find it, we can make, allow Benedict the choice. But I'm really curious to see if Benedict, if given the choice, would
Would leave,
give up.
yeah.
Yeah, would give up his post to be with Robin.
Huh. That's interesting. So it was really graceful the way the game handled that, because
Hmm.
I turned it down and Robin was like, totally get it. You have been cursed and you have a lot on your mind. And it's like,
You're
you
not
know
like guilt
what?
tripped. That's
Yes.
nice.
It's like, I feel like in a lot of video games where you have like a main quest where it's like, you're going to die in 3 days if you don't do this thing, but also help me find all 10 chickens that I've lost.
Yeah.
Like, I hate it. And so like the fact that I could just be like, no, I'm not going to help you with this. And they say, well, I get it. You're cursed by a really nasty demon. Like, I was like, this is such a nice,
That's really cool.
empathetic change of pace. I appreciate this.
Yay on writing not making you feel guilty.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Duolingo bird. I don't use Duolingo anymore because I'm just like, this bird is honestly making me feel so manipulated and
It's
guilty.
true. It's true. 100%.
Oh my gosh. So you end up driving with Robin to the aquarium because one of the bits of information that you learn is that you need to become more powerful so you can challenge the Duchess to a fight, which demons cannot refuse. Another funny moment because you're like, haha, that explains a lot, Robin. And Robin's like, dang it. But you have to challenge the Duchess. And to do so, you gain strength by gathering the third eyes of previous, I guess,
X's, sure.
for lack of a better word, of the Duchess. So you have Jenny's eye, which you collected, which Robin collected on day 1, and now you have a lead on another unfortunate soul that has gotten cursed, and that you can go and get the eye. So that's why you're headed to this aquarium.
There was one other like small moment in this conversation that I am still struggling to interpret. It sounds so like they basically they're like, Robin says like, I owe you. And you're like, well, why? And it sounds like it's because you gave them the moldy sandwich.
Yeah.
And Robin gets cagey and does not answer that question. But I don't understand, because it's like in that first scene, Robin is in your shooting range room, and then you can go to the bathroom and you meet this person. In this next sequence in the aquarium, same thing. Robin is in the main aquarium room. You go to the bathroom, and there's another person, probably the same person, requesting more food. So it's like, wait, but is the implication that is Robin? I don't understand if they're in 2 places at the same time. Like, what is happening?
I don't think it's Robin, but I was also like slightly confused at what that interaction was saying.
Yes. So it's like, it sounds like Robin feels like they owe you a debt for some reason, but I don't know. Like, I don't understand what it is. And I can't tell if this is like a tongue-in-cheek thing about the food, or if there is something more serious that we need to be uncovering over the course of the game together.
That's what I also had to pause at that moment, and I landed on, I'm going to assume it's tongue-in-cheek unless food like it comes up again. If it comes up again, then it's a pattern, and then we start looking at like what's going on.
I like that. I'll take that too.
Yeah.
So we make our way to the aquarium. And immediately, once you get into like the main aquarium area, you surviving a new enemy of giant cockroaches that drop from the ceiling, which are terrifying.
Okay. The first one gave me the biggest jump scare of my life. I was not expecting anything to fall from the ground.
So real. And like, I actually I threw this in the Discord chat with the community earlier this week. Like, my strategy now is run. Like, I don't try to fight the baddies anymore because I don't feel good with combat. I have all the accessibility things turned on, and like, I can do it. But it's like, you know what? They're slow on purpose. So I'm just going to run around them. And so when the strategy failed in the very first hallway because these giant
It
cockroaches
just
fell
fell
down.
down.
And I was like, well, I'm dead. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was a
Oh
bummer.
my gosh, that's so
Absolute bummer.
funny. I will say, I mean, running, especially in survival horror, like that is a valid strategy because you have limited ammo. So it's like that's a good thing to do. Um, I really like the combat and I loved clearing every single room. Um,
Classic.
yeah, for me, it just like not I feel like it's clunky, but in a way that I find satisfying. Like
Mm.
there's just enough slowness between switching your perspective between first and third where I'm always like, oh my god, I hope I get it in time so I can like
Mm.
aim in time because I'm really bad at aiming on the Steam Deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it just adds to that adrenaline for me and like the satisfaction when you get like all 3 or 4 hearts like ding 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 perfect. Oh, it's just like my favorite feeling right now.
Totally understandable. I
Yeah.
think for me, it's like to fight, you have to go into first person mode, and then to
Mhm.
fight effectively, you have to turn on your third eye at the right time so that the things freeze.
Mhm.
Then you can shoot and hope that you don't run out of ammo midway through shooting these hearts, because then you like lose the advantage of the time freeze. Like it's just too many things, and I keep hitting the wrong buttons
Ah,
in
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
moments. It's like, oh, I accidentally turned off my third eye. Oh, I
No.
accidentally turned on my third eye. Oh, I tried to shoot before I went into first person mode. Like I
Yeah.
just can't get the sequencing down. I think for me
That's
that's what ended up killing
understandable.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's not a combat system for everyone, but I think like if you love it, you love it. And if you don't, what's great is you can just run through. And I
Hmm.
feel like you probably honestly got a better score in the area. Like you know how at the end they give you like the stars and stuff. You probably got a better score because you were maybe faster and died less, to be very
Faster, died
honest.
less, really high percentage of accuracy because I'm not shooting very often. Like
Yes.
that's very funny. I hadn't thought about it. That's
So
a yeah, that's right,
so
Jenny.
you're just actually
Yeah.
a better gamer than I am, really.
Whoa, careful.
Yeah.
Longtime fans of the pod will know that that is that cannot be true. Okay, so we go in and you're in the you get to the big open aquarium area. We find our first memory to recover, and who do we learn is the
Oh my
person we're going after,
gosh.
the previously cursed person, Matilda,
Matilda.
the idol, like pop singer.
Hmm.
And I, first of all, thought this was really interesting, just like choosing a hyper famous person as
Hmm.
the like paramour for the Duchess. I thought was really fascinating because it seems like so often in the kind of devil's bargain, you're dealing with a person that's really desperate. And like,
Hmm.
Michelle is exactly the kind of person that like I would expect to be targeted by an entity like the Duchess. So the idea that it's like a hyper famous pop idol, I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and I think, but it makes a lot of sense in sort of the context of these are people who the Duchess has felt the desperation and like loneliness from. I would assume that's why they've been
Mm-hmm.
targeted.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine, especially as someone who goes into like if someone goes and becomes super famous, they probably feel that sense of isolation. I wouldn't know, but I would guess you feel a sense of isolation, loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, if your success is dependent on the love, adoration, like pseudo worship of your fans,
Ooh.
there's probably an element of need that Matilda has that also attracted the Duchess.
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting point. I hadn't thought about it like that. Like the
Mm,
type of desperations are very different. Like desperate for authentic connection when so many of your relationships are parasocial is a different type of desperation than Michelle, who has a lot of very like material
mm-hmm.
inadequacies of armament, like material opportunities for desperation. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's I hadn't thought about it like that. That's really
Yeah.
insightful. Hmm.
I will say I love Matilda's outfit. I think Matilda gives off magical
Yes.
girl kind of vibes, which is
Yes.
so good.
Yes. I thought of Bisky from Hunter x Hunter, the like hyper muscular
Hmm.
character with like a really like pretty dress. It's like
Yes.
Oh, I love it. It's so good.
So good. And Matilda does, oh, excuse me, this like amazing, again, we talk about it at the top of the pod, but like a jump double kick into well, a poor person, unfortunately, but also into the glass of the aquarium when she gets upset. And that sets off the sort of initial goal that you have of you seeing her room to the Duchess Hotel in the aquarium.
Mm-hmm.
You realize you need to somehow break the glass to get to that door to see if you can find her. And so you're now exploring the aquarium, trying to figure out how to fill the water in that tank.
I love rotating pipe puzzles to get
Me
water to flow.
too. Me
I
too.
love it. We get to do it several times in this chapter. And like, I texted you, I was like,
Yeah,
I loved this chapter. It's one of my favorites.
it's
And
so
I
fun.
don't even remember what the game was, but I know I have been doing pump-based water flow puzzles since I was
Hmm.
a child playing video games. And it just something about it just makes me feel so satisfied.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel so smart and like to see the tubes going all in the right way and connecting to the right places and when they rotate, oh, it's so nice. And
Yes.
so, yeah, you go throughout the various rooms of the aquarium, you make sure all the pipes are going the right way, you find the water filters. It's kind of cool you encounter some new enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any favorites of the new ones? Did you stop by them long enough to really engage? Or did you
I
just
mean,
run right
I'm sure
past?
I got killed by every enemy at least once in this day. I will say, like to the point about enemies, you in the very first day we encountered this eye that when it looks
Hmm.
at you, you can't use your third eye. And it kind of like you get the gun so that you can fight this, and it helps you like move through the subway system.
Yeah.
The eye is back, and the
Yeah.
eye has a personality. Like to me, this is like a really interesting. Like I want to know what's going on here. Like,
Hmm.
is the eye like a former lover of the Duchess, and that's why you get this third eye when you like get committed to the Duchess? Like,
Mm.
there's something to me that is happening here, and
Hmm.
at first you see the eyes again and it's like a puzzle mechanic, like you can't use your special sight in the rooms where these are around. But then like a big climactic part of this day is that the eye is blocking a bunch of pipes, and you have to like overload
Turn on
those
the
circuits
generator.
to and then
Yeah.
like hold yourself there and fight off waves of bad guys so that you can remove the eye. But the eye has a personality in a
Hmm.
way that I was not expecting. And I'm really curious to see like what is the relationship lore that's happening there.
Yeah. Did you talk to, because we have the opportunity at the first time you visit the Duchess Hotel in day one, you can go into the room and see the eye. Did you talk to the eye then?
I didn't go into the room. I saw it and then
Oh,
went
yeah.
like I was like, "Oh, I'll come back to this." And then like the story kind of forced me out before I was
Ah,
able to get
dang
back
it.
to it. So I missed all of it.
Yeah, so the lore for that eye is it's actually the remnants of an angel, if I'm remembering correctly, that has been tortured for a very long time, and kind of all that remains is sort of its like sort of ganglions and like guts, and the singular eye. And so it's quite interesting because it admits that it's in essentially a abusive relationship with the Duchess, and that they like this torture, they want to be tortured by the Duchess, um and they don't like you essentially because you are distracting the Duchess from getting back to regular torture proceedings. And so I
Interesting.
haven't done a lot of thinking about this eye, but I agree that there is something there I would like to dig into more and like
Mm.
reflect on as we play uh in the game further, because it's it's really interesting that everyone else seems to be wanting to escape the Duchess, yet this character does not. Like explicitly wants to stay there.
That I'm glad that this came up because, like, a lot of this game, like, we're learning about the dynamics and relationships between angels and demons and the effect they can have on one another. And now I cannot help but wonder if, like, these two at one point had a more, maybe I'll use the word healthy, but I don't necessarily mean that, like,
Mm.
relationship. And maybe part of like our goal here is to try and reconnect them. Like, if that's actually like our path out of this curse is maybe reconnecting
Mm.
them in some way.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Because, yeah, it's really, I think a couple of times Michelle asks both to the Duchess and sort of out into the ether, like, why why is the Duchess so infatuated with finding love?
Mm-hmm.
What does the Duchess think will happen when they find love? And sort of what is the purpose? Like, what is the
Oh,
point of all of this? Um, yeah,
yeah. That I man, we're connecting some dots here, I think.
I
Like,
think
because
so.
this demon is actively pursuing human relationships. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the people that we've seen them been cursed so far are humans. And it would make sense if there's like a Princess Bride, like you had true love and you let it go, like something like that is happening in the background, and like maybe part of what we need to do is like reconnect. I don't know. There's something interesting here.
Well,
Huh.
and I think one of this might have been, I'm trying to scroll through my screenshots because I think one of the things that the Duchess said to you in day one was that they are attracted to you because they have been through a breakup, like they have lost love. And
Mm.
so I am, now that you've brought it up, I didn't even connect that maybe the person who is the lost love is still trapped in the hotel. And it, maybe it's that eye. Um, but I think this nature of love causing change is one thing that we'll probably touch on as we wind down. But I think this idea of why does the Duchess think love will fix them, is a really
Mm.
important question to explore.
Yeah. And it is really interesting because like we make our way after we overload the tunnels, and we find like a fully monstrously transformed Matilda. We have what I thought was actually a pretty fun boss fight. Like
Yeah.
I still don't like, I still struggled with that same mechanic of first person eyesight shot, whatever, but like eventually, and because I have infinite water bottles turned on, I made it
Oh,
through.
nice.
um but there is something that's happening here that I think is we're going to have to continue to explore. Was there more about like the aquarium or the Matilda experience that like really stood out to you?
mm, I think what's interesting to me is the way that each of these people are transforming, like Jenny into the rat, Matilda into the bug. Um, Again, just thinking about the transformative nature of, I wouldn't say they were in love necessarily, but transformative nature of relationships and of maybe being the object of someone's attentions, um, whether you call it love or something else, and how it transformed these people. And I'm very curious to see as we play Michelle if we will change or if we will like allow ourselves to be changed by this, and if so, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because like our mission, like as a main mission right now, is to collect these eyes to transform ourselves to be strong enough to fight the Duchess.
Oh, I
But
didn't even
that
think about that being a physical, like actual, like I know we're getting stronger, but I was like, what are we turning into?
Yeah, something's going on here. And it's like, I can't help but wonder, like, Robin spends a lot of time at this hotel. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is this actually like this advice has been given before? And this is maybe how the Duchess gets their claws into people. Like, I am starting to not
Mm.
trust Robin a little bit in this moment.
Oh,
So
ooh.
I don't know. There's some strange things here. Like everyone hangs out with their sworn enemies a lot in this game, and I'm just
It's just a small city. The nature,
is that what?
it's like the
Yeah,
dorms, in college.
that's the question, right?
Forced proximity.
Yeah, exactly. So you can live anywhere in London. You're choosing to be in this hotel in this neighborhood. Like that's weird. Um, yeah, so we go through this big boss battle, and then we do get through the door so that we can get to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
We retrieve Matilda's eye, so we get the power up.
Yep.
And a couple of interesting things happen in the hotel. So we have this whole thing with Daryl, where
Mm-hmm.
we find out that Daryl has actually been keeping the street baker, the who has the
Violet,
food cart, Violet,
they're
keeping
trapped.
them trapped in their Sweeney Todd kitchen, creating what
Oh,
seems to be pound chocolat, like and like it seems to want to
Daryl, what are
be
you
there,
doing?
maybe. Like I can't tell like what's happening there at all.
Me, me neither, honestly. I was kind of like, do you need help? Do you want to escape? Um, Violet seemed to just be like, well, is there another prisoner coming to help?
Yeah, they
I
thought that
was
you
like,
were there to help as another prisoner. Like, oh, thank goodness, more helping hands. Like,
yeah, that was funny because, yeah.
and we do make our way into a dining room,
Mm-hmm.
where we find another human cursed like paramour
Mm-hmm.
um of the Duchess, who gets executed live on stage. And
By what is it, Dan the Jester?
Dan the Jester, who's like, what is this person's deal?
Yeah,
So
Dan the
yeah, it's like,
Jester. Yeah,
what's going on with this gesture? Like, I don't understand. And also like, oh, another person that has the third eye was just killed. Like, can I get on stage and take that
I
eye?
know.
No. I'm just
Oh,
like,
that's a good point.
yeah, it's like, well, what is happening here that
Excuse me.
the Duchess is pursuing multiple people at the same time? And like, but it seems to like really be anchored on the fact that, like, Michelle is the person, like, this is the person. And it's like, you're literally like,
Yeah.
this person's curse isn't even fully developed yet. What is going, like, it very much reinforces like there is a bottomless pit here to the Duchess, and like
Mm-hmm.
until we resolve what that pit is,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like this is a like, I'm going to get strong enough to beat this person story. It feels like we're going to have to find a different way to like help this person grapple with whatever is happening with them and move
Mm-hmm.
forward.
Mm-hmm. This is the part too, as you're exploring the hotel at the very end, you can talk to the massive eyesore again in their room. And I screenshot one of the lines that they say about the Duchess. And the massive eyesore says, they want to find love and for things to remain unchanged. You see, love has an effect on all things and more so on us celestials. And I think it's interesting that the Duchess explicitly says, I don't want change, I want love. But the whole point, like, I think this idea of love is a transformative verb, you cannot have love unless you're willing to accept change and be changed, uh, is critical. And so I think this goes back to sort of like, what is the core of Duchess's problem here?
Mm,
And how are we going to help Duchess sort of see that they are one and the same?
that's awesome. I'm glad you brought that up. I totally forgot about that. But it's like, yeah, exactly.
Mm,
Like, if you want love without change, this very non-committal love where maybe after, I don't know, say 4 days, a person that you love goes away for some inexplicable reason, yeah, maybe you be a demon that's going after humans only, so, because that doesn't require anything of you. Meanwhile, this
mm-hmm,
person that, or this being that loves you and that you clearly have an attachment to, like they're staying in your hotel, is just waiting there, but you know that to commit yourself to that would require a fundamental change and like a giving of yourself.
mm-hmm.
I think we're onto something here, Jenny.
I think so. And I think that's why, again, I'm like, Daryl, red flags all over. But there seems to be, unlike the Duchess, Daryl seems to at least give lip service to the idea of change and wanting it. And so again, I'm like, I'm gonna see what this arc will do. Um, but yeah, I guess, is there anything else with the hotel that you
No,
wanted
those are like the main
to
things that I
chat?
saw. We'll shout out the notes in the Discord around buying upgrades. Definitely like extending
Mm-hmm.
the pause time is a big helpful upgrade. Damage improvements in the guns, big helpful upgrade.
Yep.
So if y'all have not explored that, would highly recommend you make those purchases in the
Yeah.
hotel.
What did they call the currency?
Wow, yowzes.
Yowzas. I think that's so funny. Just another good joke moment. But yeah, that is it for day 2. After you watch that, you exit the hotel via the door to your directly to your room. You go to sleep, and you can basically save at the red phone booth. Um, Next week we are going to be talking I think, is it the finale? Yes, the final full day, and sort of the ending of Sorry We're Closed. Super excited for that. So be sure to make sure you're following on the podcast platform you like listening to on YouTube, so you can get the notification when it's out, or subscribe to the newsletter at geeksandgrounds.com. We'll send it via there as well if you want it direct in your inbox.
May we all find a song this week that reinforces the toxic desire to change the person we love without changing ourselves. I'll be playing Taylor Swift's I Can Fix Him, I Know I Can.
Oh my gosh.
Please throw in the comments what toxic love song you'll be listening to.
I haven't even thought of one. All right, we'll see y'all next week. Bye.